Hey y'all, hope you're doing amazing. So, it just dawned on me recently that we seem to be in a slight pickle as a country. Now, if you think everything's going good in our country, this video is not for you. If you see no issues with the cop shootings at all, if you see no race issues in our country at all on either side, if you don't see any economic issues in our country, if you think our freedoms are really strong and haven't been better, this video isn't for you. But for the people that live in reality and the normal world, that's what this video is about. How did we get to a stage where we have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as our two presidential nominees? Let's think about this here. The definition of the corrupt establishment as Hillary Clinton, and the definition of a disrespectful, loudmouth middle school bully in Donald Trump as our other option. How did we get to this stage? Don't worry though. What everybody's going to tell you is to vote for this one more time and then vote your conscience. Vote for your morals after this election. Because we really, really, really need Hillary Clinton or really, really, really need Donald Trump this election. That's what matters the most. Come on, guys. You know, when you get gangrene and the same doctor is producing gangrene on multiple patients all the time, you don't just keep chopping off legs, aka voting for one more president, and go, hey, maybe it will work next time. I got a feeling if we just cut off one more person's arm, the gangrene's going to stop happening. The guy's probably going to start using cleaner tools after we chop off this next victim's leg. Yeah. No, that's not what you do. You go and try to figure out what the source of the problem is. And that's what I want to ask you guys. What do you actually think the source of the problem is for the United States? And if you don't think we have a problem, I got the wrong channel for you. Get off the video. But for all of us that are out there looking at all these other issues, and there's a lot of issues out there, where do you think the source is? Where do you think the problem is? How can we cure it? How can we fix it? And I personally think I've got a few ideas to bounce off of you. I think it starts, we got to go back to how is it that we end up with this presidential debate. Let's start with that. And I think it's pretty simple. I think the American people are starting to recognize that we've got serious issues in our country and they do not want more of the same, more establishment. I think that's why Hillary Clinton, who was supposed to walk away with a nomination without any effort, nobody was going to run against her, piece of cake, had the run of her lifetime against Bernie Sanders, who granted is a career politician, but he is not a part of the establishment. And people recognize that more of the same, whether it's a Bush or whether it's a Clinton, is not good for this country. And there are very good arguments that the only way she could win is because, well, first of all, she had an astronomical large amount of money behind her, but it was because of the corruption and how she bought and controlled networks, TV networks. Of course, this is all proven through the emails that WikiLeaks proved. So the question becomes, how is it that we got here? Well, I would say Donald Trump is exactly the Bernie Sanders of the Republican Party. He's not a good Bernie Sanders like Bernie Sanders was. Well, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not really going down that road right now. But Donald Trump was the only outsider running. You've got Rand Paul, who's supposed to be an outsider, who has a popular politician name. He has he's a soft-spoken, not confident dude. That's the way he comes across when he's in a debate. You have Marco Rubio, establishment to a T. Ted Cruz, establishment to a T, warmonger. And then you have Jeb Bush. Woohoo! So Republicans, they go, I don't want establishment. My only option is Donald Trump. So that's who they get excited by. That's who they get jump behind. That's who they get all pumped for. And they support a person like Donald Trump. And then you end up with this disastrous election. So the real question is, how is it going to change? Because that's what happened this election, but this isn't the first election. This has been going on for quite some time now. This is not the first time we've had to deal with a horrible election. George Bush, Al Gore, remember that one? Yeah! Woohoo! Obama versus McCain? Romney versus Obama? So we're doing this every single election. What's the cure? And I think we got to go way back. way back to FDR. Up until FDR, the federal government really didn't have a way to start buying votes from the public. The federal government was not involved in the economy. It was not involved in controlling things. It was not involved in the welfare state. And so what you had is individuals like you and I, when we wanted to help people, we had to go to the church. When we were poor and needy, we needed to go to the church or different organizations like Goodwill. And people would voluntarily give their money to places like Goodwill, and we would be helping the community and helping each other, and that helps unite us. Now, because of politicians like FDR, who started forcing the federal government to forcefully take money from us and give to people that oftentimes we're not going to approve of, it starts dividing us. Instead of uniting us as we're helping each other proudly, we now are the money's forcefully taken from us, and then we look at who it's given to, and we look at the disasters, and it's frustrating, and we go, holy cow, I don't want that. That's not what I want my name on. But we don't have a choice because a gun's put to our head, and we're forced to give that money to us. We then started policing the world, which of course takes a tremendous amount of money, which we can't afford, so the government starts to print money. This means that the dollar that you're working so hard for has less and less value every single day. And so you're buying less every single day while the government tells you, oh, the economy's doing just fine. We're doing just great. Don't worry about anything. Then we have Lyndon B. Johnson. He comes out with the Great Society. We're going to fix the poor. We're going to fix those in poverty. Well, our poverty rate before the Great Society was going down. Before the FDR, it was going down consistently, about 1% a year. We were actually making progress. Poverty was starting to get fixed in our country, not with any government regulations. Free market, free businesses paying higher and better wages because they had to compete with other businesses. We were becoming more productive as a society. Well, once the government starts having all of this power, businesses no longer have the motivation to compete with each other, because now the motivation is to get in bed with government. Whoever can pay off the politician can have the advantage on the marketplace. He can drive out his competition with regulations, control, things of this kind. And now, instead of us being able to unite over working in different industries, we now have companies trying to put other companies out of business, not because they have better prices, better quality, or better employees, but because they use the government to forcefully regulate other businesses out of business. This doesn't unite us. This hurts us. This isn't the business's fault. If that business doesn't do it, he goes out of business because his competition does the same thing to him. This is a corruption problem. This is a government problem. This is a power problem. When the government didn't have this power, it wasn't possible. Then we look at things like the minimum wage and the welfare state. And I look at race relations and minorities. And again, this is just a quick, brief overview of everything. But we all of a sudden have now race relations where poor people, poor black people, they end up on welfare. They have generations stuck on welfare dole, government housing. These guys, oftentimes minorities, they end up growing up in government housing where they're surrounded by horrible examples, welfare recipients all day long, alcoholics, druggies, prostitutes, broken families, single parents. This is what they grow up in. They grow up in this all day long. They end up going to public schools, and these public schools in these areas are always bad. You go to horrible public schools, they either drop out or they graduate their degree, or their graduation is worth nothing. They can hardly read, they can hardly spell half the time, thanks to our amazing public schools, which has no competition either. They then try to get a job, and employers are forced to discriminate against them, because if those kids are not worth whatever the minimum wage is, $8 an hour, $10 an hour, whatever the minimum wage is set at, the employer is forced to discriminate and not hire that person. This leaves minorities, blacks especially, the worst. They end up without jobs. The market can't fix it. It's not a free market anymore, but the market can't hire these guys because the government forces us to discriminate against them. And now these kids end up screwed. They end up on the street corners as prostitutes. They end up trying to sell drugs in their own black market. Then they end up in gangs. They end up shot. They end up on the government dole. They end up in government housing all over again. And this same vicious cycle repeats itself over and over and over again. Cops get fed up with the whole mess, and this whole thing becomes a race relationship issue between cops and people. We start having issues with it because now we see all of our money going to welfare recipients that aren't doing things that we approve of or things that we want. This is what happens when you allow government control to get involved in people's lives. This is what happens when you allow the drug war to tear families apart. You talk about race relations. Could you imagine having a police officer bust your door down, rip your father, your mother from the kids or from the parents, so that way, they're going to prison for smoking a joint? Is that going to make you safe and secure when you see the police around you? I don't smoke weed, but the drug war has destroyed more lives than I can count. 1.3 million people in prison right now for victimless crimes, smoking weed, things of this kind. No violence, just smoking a plant or selling a plant that we don't approve of, so we're going to rip you from your parents, rip you from your family, and we're going to send you to prison. Oh, don't worry, America. Guys, these are just some of the ideas that I have on this topic. I want more ideas. This is just a really quick overview. This is not going into everything in depth. But this really comes down to the more power government has, the less we unite as people. And we need to be uniting instead of dividing, which is the opposite of what our country is promoting. If you guys want more videos like this, hit subscribe. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. I love it. Have yourself a wonderful day. Looking forward to the comments, the thought-out dialogue. Let's start fixing problems in the United States. The goal is to unite us. It doesn't matter what party you're from. The goal is to unite Americans of all skin colors, all races, all religions, all political parties. That's all I got for now, guys. Peace out.